guys, I want to welcome my first guest on my new show, the S.E.H.R show. And yes, I made it into an acronym because that's what I thought would be most fitting. S is for sales, E is for entrepreneurship, H is for the heart, and R is for real estate because I've been blessed to help thousands of clients invest in real estate. And that's one of my greatest passions. And that's why I have brought on my guest today, who just last year was named the most influential real estate leader in Canada and who happens to be the president and CEO of the largest real estate franchise, Lepage. It's none other than Mr. Phil Soper. Phil, how are you doing today?
Oh, great. And thanks for having me on. I didn't realize it was your inaugural show. I'm double honored.
You're my first guest.
Well, no one will ever take that away from us. This will be the greatest show ever.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that you're safe, your family's safe. I think everybody's just super happy to be coming out of this lockdown eventually after a long 15 months.
Oh, it's so true. It's been, it's great that the real estate industry did so well during the challenging times for so many people, but it sure got old, didn't it? I mean, I think everybody, including real estate agents who have been incredibly busy over the last 6 to 9 months, will be glad to see some normality return to their personal lives.
Right. And how have things pivoted for you on your end?
Good. We were able to make the transition to a virtual business with obviously our frontline practitioners like yourself. Still meeting with clients, but much of this support infrastructure across Canada. Remember, we have some 700 offices and over 20,000 people. So this is a big logistical challenge. Moving the support and the infrastructure virtual was actually easier than I thought it would be. You guys did such a great job servicing clients through this tough time. So I am delighted with the way the company's come out of the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of real estate, we got a lot of real estate enthusiasts around us. Most of our viewers, listeners, and clients are here in the GTA. So I want to talk about the current state of the GTA real estate market. If you look at the numbers that just came out in June, prices have hit an all-time high, 1.1 million, and we're up 22% last year. So I get this question all the time, Phil, how long can this keep going?
I think this current expansion, because that's what I call it, has about another year to run. And we're up just a little over a year through it now. I see 3 distinct phases unfolding in the pandemic era. The first phase was what occurred in 2020, which saw a lot of young buyers. We saw a record number of 25 to 35-year-olds enter the real estate market. About the middle of the first quarter, we saw existing homeowners really start to re-engage in the market. Many of them had been good Canadians, stayed home, isolated like their governments were telling them to. And we really saw a resurgence of demand from people who already owned homes. And we still have what I'm calling the third wave of COVID era demand, which is when we come back to fully welcoming new Canadians and temporary residents. Interesting, we are number 3 in the world in terms of the number of foreign students that study at our great institutions. And as you know, there's many of them in the GTA. We have almost 1 million temporary residents enter the country in normal times. And of course, they've been gone and those people need places to live. So them, as well as with reinvigorated immigration numbers, should sustain this expansionary period through the spring market of 2022.
Right. And one of my clients just actually closed on a property last Friday and they were able to get 1.4% on a variable. How long do you think interest rates can stay this low?
They've already moved up somewhat, as you've no doubt noticed. We're probably about 35 basis points off the cheapest financing we saw, but still very, very low by historical standards. I don't see a sharp move away from today's cost of money for some time. And I'm talking, 2, 3 years. Of course, inflation is a wild card in the economy here in Canada and around the world. And if it did catch root, we would need to reduce some of the monetary stimulus, the very cheap money that we see in the marketplaces now. But people shouldn't forget that while parts of the economy are doing incredibly well, real estate being one of them, there's still many people unemployed. The unemployment rate is much higher than it was before the pandemic. And until we've got all of those Canadians back and working, the government and policymakers like the Bank of Canada still have work to do.
Right. So the last time that we saw the new stress test rules come into effect in 2018, we saw a slight cool off in the market for a couple of months. But that was pretty much kind of like a Band-Aid, sort of cooling effect. So now with this new stress test that was implemented on June 1st, what do you think that we should be advising our clients?
Well, it will slow the market a little bit, but you're absolutely right. This test, is an incremental change to the base test. The last move, which was put in place in January 1st, 2018, in Ontario, we'll go broader than just the GTA. In Ontario, it really slowed the market for about 18 months. Your practice may have seen a little bit shorter period of impact, but it was pretty significant. Probably the most significant slowdown we've seen in the real estate market since the Great Recession at the end of the 2000s. This is much less impactful. Remember, that was the very first time anyone had encountered this. And for a lot of people, it represented 250 basis points or 2.5 percentage points. This is much smaller, call it half a percentage point, 50 basis points. And people know what to expect. They know how to work their way through it. And I'm talking both consumers and our financial institutions. So yes, it will have some impact at the margin, but nothing like we saw in January of 2018.
So Phil, I'd like to segue into the millennials of the GTA. And I know that Lepage has this report that they do every single year, and where it gets picked up by the Globe and Mail and the Toronto Star. And all of us Lepages are very, very proud of it and thankful for you guys to put in that time. Where do you think that market's going? Do you think they're going to be renting? Are they going to be buying? What is the newest report saying?
Based on our research, and thank you for that. I'm glad you find it useful because it's a lot of work. The millennials may be the most focused on owning a home generation we've ever had, more than their parents, the baby boomers. 92% of millennials tell us that they want to own a home. Now, we won't get 92% home ownership. Our home ownership rate in the country right now is about 69. I think when we've done the math, we'll see that tick up a little bit because of this real estate boom we've seen in 2020, 2021. But call it 70%. But there's a lot of pull. When you think about products, if you're Apple and you design a new smartphone and 90% of consumers want it, and only 50% of consumers will end up buying it, you're in a good space because you've got more demand or pull for your product than you'll ultimately be able to close or satisfy. And that's a great place to be. What you don't want to be is with your future customers telling you, nah, I'm not interested in real estate. I'm not interested in owning my home. And you're going, gosh, does that mean the industry is going to shrink? Well, far from it. The research shows exactly the opposite. We've got a financially focused group of young people in our country who realize that spending money on real property, on real estate, is one of the few fun ways you can secure your financial future. It's fun to go out to a restaurant or buy a pair of shoes, but that disappears, that money. You invested in real estate and it pays dividends for years to come.
Yeah, for sure. So costs of construction have gone up a lot as well in the past year. And we're seeing, like, I'm heavily invested in pre-construction. We're seeing that, like, pricing is just increasing month over month. And it's like the suburbs are now easily over $1,000 a square foot. Downtown Toronto, there's projects coming out at $1,800, $2,000 a square foot. Where do you see that market going for pre-con and affordability?
Yeah, it will flatten, but I don't think we're going to see significant declines in the cost of materials, predominantly lumber or labor, anytime soon. The challenge is Canada is an expanding nation. Household formation is strong. And the Golden Horseshoe of Southern Ontario and the GTA is the favored place for growth, both from new Canadians and from people migrating from other parts of Canada. And so that's going to put a lot of pressure on construction. And we got to remember, we live in a global and a North American continent. And while we've seen a huge boom in housing demand in Canada, they've seen exactly the same thing south of the border. And that's a massive market for softwood lumber, for skills. So I don't see the cost of materials, be it labor or hard materials, falling anytime soon. But I do see it flattening out, normalizing at a higher level. And of course, those costs do have to get passed on to the consumer.
Yeah. Do you think it'll stabilize pre-construction prices a little bit at least?
Yes, I think it will. I think one of the really encouraging things that I've seen from policymakers, so call it city planners, ministers of finance at the provincial and federal level, is everybody seems to realize we've got a housing shortage. You know, for the last decade, people have been hammering away at the industry, trying to slow it down by new taxes or trying to quell demand. What they've come to realize, this isn't artificial demand. These aren't speculators. This isn't foreign investors. This is organic demand from a growing Canada. Both our millennials going into home ownership and new Canadians who we need to put a roof over their heads.
And is there any areas in the GTA that you think that like investors should focus on, that you really have a pulse on?
I'd say in general that the suburbs have been the darling, call it detached housing in the suburbs, or even what Lepage calls the exurbs, those smaller communities just outside of the formal GTA. They've been the darling over the past year. Right. I believe there's going to be a resurgence of interest in core housing, and particularly in multis and condominiums. I think the belief that people are going to work from home has been overblown and oversold in the media, and that businesses want people to come back. The research shows that while productivity you may be able to keep it at an acceptable level in a work from home environment, creativity, the ability to think new solutions and move your business forward really benefits from getting people together. And businesses will realize this. And those that don't, I think, will start falling behind, and then they'll step in line. So I, for one, do not believe the hollowing out of our city centers. And I think one of the big surprises over the next 12 months will be strength in the Toronto proper condominium market.
Okay, perfect. Well, that was great, Phil. Thank you so much for your insight. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know how busy you are. You only have 18,000 realtors to take care of. Thank you for everything that you do as a leader at Lepage, and for being my first guest. It really does mean the world to me. But before we end off, I was taking a look at your Instagram, and I noticed a cute puppy. Is that yours?
I do. Ruby's right here. Ruby, come here, baby.
Oh, let's see.
Come here. Let's see if she'll. Come here. Atta girl. She just got a haircut. So that's,
oh my God.
Yeah, that's Ruby. She's 1 year old.
She never did a haircut. Well, we're not.
Yeah. So you probably don't even recognize her, because she's got that kind of sheepdog look in a lot of photos. But
Yeah,
yeah,
she's
she got
very
her
cute.
summer due. Yeah.
I'm actually a volunteer at the Etobicoke Humane Society. So
Oh, are you really?
Yeah, since the past 4 years.
Oh, that is so awesome. So
We
you
do a
love
lot of
dogs.
work with dogs. Obsessed with dogs. That's the
Me-
first thing that I noticed before anything else. I'm like, Phil has a really cute dog.
I don't know how I would have made it through the pandemic without my Ruby. She's been such a great companion. And you know what? People who own dogs are healthier, right? Because we get out, even if you're a gym rat, when you have a dog, you're mentally healthier because they
100%.
release stress. Yeah, they're beautiful things, beautiful companions.
100%. And I also noticed that you were into photography. You had a lot of great pictures you've taken, or?
Yes, yeah. I've been doing it. In university, I took photographs for our student newspaper. I was a photojournalist, and love to travel. And as I travel around the world, I never go anywhere without my camera. And I found, social channels over the last decade have been great as a way to actually share photographs. So thank you for noticing. Yeah, no, I wish my kids were a little more keen. They all got forced into things I like to do, and some things stuck, but no one seems to really care about. Everybody's a photographer, of course, because everybody has a phone. But then taking it to the next level is, it takes time and effort. And well, maybe one of them will. Maybe when they have kids, maybe then they'll get excited.
Yeah. And hopefully soon, once all this is over, we can have the trip again that Lepage does for all
for the Chairman's Club people. We'd love to have you come. Love to have you come.
Sure. So can't wait for that. And once again, thank you so much, Phil, for being my first guest. I really appreciate your time today.
My pleasure. It was an absolute honor.
Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.